Hey, how's it going? This is going to be a what's sold video. The highlights, my sales have been, frankly, kind of hit or miss, and that's been the case for a lot of people. I think sales are kind of slowing down a little bit. This happens. It's part of the natural life cycle of eBay. Don't freak yourself out too bad about it if that's the same boat that you're in as well. It's a pair of Levi's 560s sold for full asking price, $59.99. Did have to wait on these for slightly longer than most 560s, but because they were black, because they were vintage, as I think all 560s are, and because they were in very good condition, they did sell for 60 bucks. This is a pack of 2 packs of vintage playing cards. I got a big lot of playing cards as part of a board game box that I got off of OfferUp for 25 bucks total. That paid for itself immediately, and the rest of these cards did sell. I don't recommend picking up playing cards. It is more of a pain and more of my ass than I anticipated it being. This sucked. I got this for $3 at an outdoor thrift store during the pandemic, and it did sell for full asking price of $24.97 after a little bit of waiting. And I ended up discovering a giant stain conspicuous right on the sleeve that I didn't notice when I was listing it. Somehow or other, I didn't do my due diligence and just sent the guy a full refund with a note, which is a good best practice to have. I don't play around with my feedback. I do everything that is in my power to remove any justification in the buyer's mind for leaving negative feedback, even if that means biting the bullet on 25 bucks. In the scenario, fast forwarding to staring down the barrel of a negative review, would I spend $25 to have that removed if it was justified and if I couldn't get it removed by eBay seller support? The answer is yes. So this is me preemptively paying 25 bucks to cover my own mistake because it was my fault. And even if it wasn't my fault, I would still contemplate maybe just playing ball and capitulating because your feedback score is really critical. These I picked up at a swap meet / flea market, as most of my viewers, I think, refer to those as, or car boot sales if you're in Europe or the UK. So these had some cosmetic flaws with them. They still sold for 39 bucks. I picked them up for 10 bucks, so some decent money. It's a pair of 501XXs. Light wash, just basic bread and butter, 35 bucks. Picked these up for 5 at the swap meet. Here's the first book that has sold from that big lot of books in my previous haul video. This is not the one that I would have anticipated selling. It is a book about Pacifico Radio, which is a radio station up in the Bay Area, and it sold for 25 after listing it for 40 because it was a rare book. That was just a guess. Took 25, more than happy to sell it to someone who wants it. I did locate the previous owner of the books, and we've been communicating via email. And he was really happy that I reached out to him because he did not want to part with a lot of these books. So some of them are going back to the previous owner. I'll make a video maybe following up about that. As an addendum, that video, I got a lot of feedback from people commenting on how happy I seemed when I was talking about the books, and that's true. Books, I am more emotionally invested in books than I am in clothing, which might sound weird since I'm a clothing reseller. I don't truly, genuinely care about clothing that much. It is kind of a dispassionate process, finding it and reselling it. It's just a commodity to me for the most part, even though I have grown to like clothing, but I genuinely love books. And in light of how shooting that video and getting that haul made me feel, I've decided to start a second channel. So if you're interested in book hauls, thrifting books, and my thoughts about the stuff that I read, especially with probably a predominantly science fiction flavor to it, then I'll leave a link to the new channel in the description. If you don't care, I don't expect you to, because it's kind of pretty tangential to what we're doing here, but it's available if you're interested. So this is a brand that I definitely advocate buying, Cricket or Cricket. It's in at least one of my videos about unconditional buy brands, and that's still the case. But as an addendum to that, I would not include this in the category of brands that are so strong you can sell them unconditionally if they have flaws, because this shirt did have a flaw with it right there. Little spot that I pointed out. And I think, yeah, there was some discoloration here. This took a long time to sell, an uncomfortably long time to sell, and it sold for 15 bucks. So interesting sale. This is one of 3 of these similar crop top pieces that I sold. I got this for free, so I was able to list it for dirt cheap, 10 bucks, or I think I had it listed at 15 and took an offer for 10. So just pure profit there. And it was a men's long sleeve t-shirt that got converted into a women's crop top. And it was a surf shop from Huntington Beach, which is just north of here, closer to LA. This is a piece I got from Heroin Bob, or Bob Buys. Thank you again, if you're watching. Just the basic Columbia PFG shirt that I was, again, able to list on the very cheap end just to get a quick sale out of it because it was a gift. So 20 bucks, Columbia PFG shirts are solid sellers. Here's a leather gun holster that I bought at a swap meet for 5 bucks. Don't know which gun it went to. I learned in the process of listing this that a lot of these holsters are specific to specific makes and models of guns, which is something that people want to know. So I had this listed at 50 and a guy offered 30 with the justification that I didn't know which gun it was compatible with. I accepted. He hasn't returned it, so I assume that it worked out for him. Another swap meet find, Lululemon, of course. Need I say more? 25 bucks. Travis Matthew polo, $14. This didn't sit for terribly long, but Travis Matthew does not sell as quickly or for as much money as it did a year or 2 ago. It was one of my favorite brands. It's still a good brand, but it has suffered slightly. Sorry if this is redundant with other videos if you're a return watcher, but I have adopted a new strategy with suits and more formal jackets of just trying to get a really quick flip out of them by dramatically undercutting the rest of the market and pricing them for prices that would make certain resellers' hair turn white and steam come out of their ears for racing to the bottom. But this is a Giorgio Armani Tuxedo that I got for 15, flipped it for 50. Especially now with COVID, suits are selling quite slowly. And I have found that taking lowball offers or pricing them really low to begin with has been a reliable method of getting consistent sales out of suits that would otherwise just sit on my rack for way too long. Yet another gift from Bob Buys. Thank you again. Same story, 15 bucks. Sold for full asking price. Under Armour is a very consistent brand for me. Not all of it sells for all that much. In fact, most of it doesn't sell for all that much, but if you can acquire it for cheap enough, then it's definitely just one of my absolute favorite bread and butter brands. This one is really a failure, even though it was a successful sale. It sold for 9 bucks. It's this vintage, I guess, dead stock, you could call it, plastic pendant or necklace, and I bought one of those vases of assorted jewelry at the swap meet because I've seen on YouTube a couple people doing this, and it just on paper makes sense. You buy bulk jewelry, and then if 1 or 2 pieces sell, you make your money back, and then it's just selling it piecemeal. And it doesn't take up a whole lot of space, and some of it can sell for decent money, so it just logically makes sense, but I think I got not that great of one, and it just was a black hole of labor time. That was actually expedited because I was at the swap meet with my mom, and she volunteered to help me sort it, so thank you, Mom. Even with the assist, it took way too long. I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you know what you're looking at when it comes to jewelry, which I kind of don't. Swap meet finds. This guy wanted 10 bucks. He took an offer of 8 bucks for it. It sold for 40. Blackcraft Cult is a really, really, really solid brand. It's in the manifesto, I think, for, I think it's over 100%. And this was a pretty rare jersey, and it didn't take that long to sell. This guy hardballed me so hard. He was ABCing me. He was getting the coffee for closers only, and literally wouldn't let me leave his booth. He followed me to the next adjacent booth to try to pitch me on other stuff that he had. Doesn't work. Yeah, but I got this for $8 and made a pretty little piece of profit on it. This is definitely the highlight sale. So this is in, I guess, pretty old video at this point, right before that big 20 best-selling men's brands video that brought you unto me. I put up a video where I was doing some Poshmark arbitrage, buying from Poshmark to flip on Poshmark and eBay, and someone had these sneakers up for sale. They didn't know what they had, and I paid either 40 or $60 for them, and they're really rare. There are some like this that are not as valuable, but this combo, C3PO and R2D2 pair of sneakers, very, very rare, and I had it listed for $500 on eBay and on Poshmark, and someone offered me $225. There was some back and forth haggling, settled on $300. And they messaged me in one of their offers. They asked if it was going to arrive within a certain window of time that was well within the priority mail typical delivery window, which is 2 days, usually 2 business days. So I said, yeah, no problem. It'll totally get there by then. And then I got a message from him after he paid for it, double checking, saying that he couldn't message me in regards to this item through the messaging system, and that it was saying that it was going to have to be sent through an authenticator. So he was worried that it wasn't going to ship to him on time, and it turned into this big fiasco. I had no idea that eBay mandatorily, if you sell sneakers that are worth over $150, will force you to send your sneakers to one of their authentication partners before it is routed and reshipped to your buyer, which tacks on at least a week of extra time, it seems like, which took me totally by surprise. So I had to call eBay seller support a few times to try to get them to let me circumnavigate that process, which they wouldn't, until we figured out, because they assumed that I had already shipped it. Long story short, they said it was fine if I just shipped it through a third party. So I bought shipping through Pirate Ship and was able to ship it to the buyer. And then I started having second thoughts of like, wow, maybe this is an elaborate scam to try to get me to circumvent the authentication process, because if you do that, you are not protected by eBay if they file an item not as described case. So I have not been scammed yet. Enough time has elapsed that I think they've probably been delivered, although it should say that, right? I should check Pirate Ship. I don't know if these have been delivered yet, but I have not been scammed yet. So I think that this is a win. I'm counting this as a win for now. So 40 or $60 into 300. Just be aware of that authentication process. If it's worth more than $150 in terms of the final sale price, it's going to want you to ship it to an authentication process. And if it wasn't time sensitive, I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. You should just be aware of it. This both is and is not a surprise. Brioni, famously one of the higher end menswear brands, certainly one of the better known high-end menswear brands that people talk about on reselling YouTube. And in my experience, a lot of their more prosaic pieces, like basic dress shirts such as this, do not sell that quickly, and I struggle to sell them for above market value comparable to other brands, which doesn't feel like it should be the case, but it is, and that's borne out by some of the sell-through research that I did for the brand in the manifesto. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have a 215 brand guide, Bolo guide, that's available for free / pay me whatever you feel it's worth. There will be a link to it in the description. So I go into detail about Brioni, and Brioni dress shirts had, at the time that I researched the manifesto, a pretty low sell-through. And that is borne out by my own experience as well. And of course, this one did have a couple flaws with it, but Brioni dress shirts, I would, of course, still pick them up, but I wouldn't anticipate getting crazy money for them unless they were something outlandish or weird or new with tags or what have you, any of the other conditions. This, I thought I could source with my eye and make a quick flip out of it, despite the fact that I know that Tommy Hilfiger stuff does not sell quickly. because of what it was, what it looked like. It's a big color blocked vintage men's polo shirt with a conspicuous Tommy Hilfiger emblem on the chest in a desirable size. Took forever to sell, and I was lucky that it sold for full price here, $24.97. Here's another suit that I had listed originally for, I think, 150 or 200, dropped the price down to 99 just to get it out of here, and took an offer of 59 bucks, which might make your balls retract into your body, but I want the sale. I just want to turn the stuff. I just want to get a reliable profit. If that was a t-shirt, a $15 investment, buying a t-shirt, taking slightly longer to list it, and realizing $59 as a final sale price, that would be an exceptional flip that you might brag about on Instagram. It just happens to be a suit. Here is this lesson learned again. I had these Fry boots listed on eBay and Poshmark forever and ever and ever. This is my floor for my place in LA where I lived before COVID. And I had these listed at like 125 or 100 because of what they were. There were these almost knee-high leather Fry boots, and Fry is a great brand. Dropped the price down to like 70, I think, and took an offer for 41 and just moved them out. This is another Columbia PFG. It's a women's. Interestingly, I had this listed for a while, and when the warmer weather came around, it sold. And I think fishing shirts are just going to uptick in their sell-through as we get into summer because they're vented, they're lightweight, and that's their primary purpose, is to be breathable. Another one, this I had listed for 200 bucks, took an offer for 90. Totally happy with that. Those are working surgeon's cuffs. That's an indicator of quality. Most of those buttons on the cuffs are going to be just ornamental. And this is the brand. It is a valuable higher end brand. One of my absolute favorite pieces to find, Nike Pro Combat, very reliable seller. It sells more reliably for me than any other kind of Nike product. Nike Pro Combat stuff is just a slam dunk whenever you can find it. Sold for 31 bucks, 49 cents after offering 10% to a watcher. This is another really quick flip. It's a Lululemon's running jacket. I couldn't track down the exact model, so I might have been able to sell it for more if I knew what the name of the model was, which is one of a few frustrating things about Lululemon, is sometimes they don't actually have the little serial numbers on the size dot, which for future reference, this is what I'm talking about. That's the size. The size can be really tough to find. It's almost always inside of a pocket, sometimes deep inside of a pocket. So you have to rummage around for it. And a lot of these dots will have two sets of numbers, one on top, one on bottom. And if you look up those numbers, sometimes you can figure out what the model name of the piece is, not all the time. Same deal as the Nike Pro Combat. I had this listed at 50, sent out an offer of 10% off to the watcher. Someone grabbed it. Here's one I had listed for too long. It was priced too high at 25. Should have priced it down, but it did sell. It's seersucker, which is this texture and pattern. It's striped, it's ruffled, and it's cotton. That is seersucker. And this patchwork thing was pretty appealing. Patchwork clothing, I should have included in that video about the highest selling or the most popular kinds of clothing right now, because I know, and this might be a gendered thing, this might be more women than for men, but patchwork clothing is very on trend right now. So this hits a few buttons. And seersucker is definitely a summer-specific fabric or look, so I'm not surprised that I had to sit on this for a while before it sold. DVDs I really enjoy selling. They're easy to scan. You can scan them on eBay just like you can scan them on the Amazon seller app. And I've had good luck with sports DVDs, exercise DVDs, niche things, rare movies. And probably surf videos and skate videos have been the most consistent sellers for me in terms of both DVDs and VHS tapes over the years. And this was no exception. This, I think, sold at a 10% offer to a watcher. I picked this up from a swap meet and it sold almost immediately. This is another one of those crop tops from a surf shop, and yet another one sold for 15. I guess there were 3 that sold. I didn't even realize the serendipity here. LL Bean seersucker sold for 25 again. Another older piece, that sat for a while, and when the weather turned, it sold. And here's another one of those books from the Swap Meet book haul. I sell on Poshmark as well. My sales on Poshmark have been significantly slower than on eBay, and there's not really all that much to show off. It's that educational, just bread and butter stuff. Big piece of news, I got my second Pfizer shot 2 days ago. I've gone over the hump of the fever and the sickness, and in 2 weeks' time, I will be back to thrifting. So looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. And thanks for watching. And if you're interested in the book channel, take a look. Thank you.